You're going to actually talk. I would like Nana to conclude this thought. It's just that while she was saying, you were just shaking your head and said, this is not a national issue. You know,
it's a
but
national
okay,
issue.
this is a national issue, and she's not talking in a national issue. Okay, well, just to add to what you're saying, I'd like you to actually talk about how marginalized groups can strategize to engage with stakeholders in processes such as budget formulation, you know, or passing laws that promote youth and gender-responsive service delivery, both at the federal and the state level, so at the national level.
So one of the things that Hamza mentioned was about having evidence-based policies or having data that would support some of these engagements. I know that the Women in Parliament Committee has been looking for ways or have been making strides in engaging with different groups, creating mentorship programs in the works, trying to find ways of engaging their colleagues, building allies from amongst the ranks. One of the things that I have noticed is this, access to marginalized groups. When we talk about marginalized groups, we're talking about just women, persons living with disability, you know, groups that, you know, are not at the forefront of every policy that's made. But we only reach a very few number of them. When we talk about engagement, how? Is it using the leaders? Using the leaders has not worked so far. Community level engagements are more productive. I've seen the work that Connected Development does, going to states, going to smaller communities, engaging with, if we can adopt similar strategies, just like you mentioned, same thing that happened when we were doing the Not Too Young to Run campaign. If we can adopt similar snowball approach to these things, engaging with people at different levels. So we have National Assembly engaging with the people at the federal level, states engaging with people at the state level, have the councillors who also do the same type of function, engage with their local communities. They are more able and better to identify the people in their communities who belong to these marginalized groups without having a blanket type of policy. What works in, say, Katangoro is going to work in this other place, copy and paste type of strategies. Knowing the things that are more cultural context, more social context to the community or the space in which you're operating, engage them in that way. To me, I feel like that's a better approach, honestly.
Thank you. Okay.
I really appreciate the fact that my brothers here are really honest about their intervention and just saying it as it is. But let's also try to reflect on what they've said. Politically speaking, like they've said, it's about the money for every politician. So it's just left for citizens and the people who they're representing to also look inwards. And so again, politically speaking, it's about morals. It's meant to be about morals and ideals. But what are our unifying morals and ideals as a country? I do anti-corruption work. You know, I go to the grassroots. What are the morals? What people look at you, and when you ask people who are your role model, they only look at you when you drive SUV or the kind of clothes you wear. They're not concerned about your ideals. They're not concerned about the big idea you have to help society. And like they've said, man, they need to save money and make more money so they can probably even run for House of Rep and be in Abuja, you know, and give more money to the people at the grassroots. You know, because people want to bury their parents, people want to marry, people want to, you know, send their children. That's what people at the grassroots would. I've interacted with a lot of your colleagues. So they're not concerned about how many bills you're passing or how would this bill create job. They will ask you, you know, where to want choppy that, you know. That's the reality. So again, I appreciate, you know, you guys telling us how it is. But I add my voice to Nana. You have to take that power, man. You guys know how you got into public office, and you know no be beans. So maybe you need to cook the beans with the governors, collect your power from them.
Let's hear from people. You know, we've been talking for a while. Let's hear what some people have to say. We have people here in the hall.
Sorry, can I say something? Sorry. I totally have a different view
from
what my brother have just amplified. From the very first day you inaugurated into office, the next thing you'll be thinking about is how to save money for the next election. I'm sorry, I think I'm a different person. I'm sorry to say this. All I do, I think I have some of your colleagues here who follow my program in Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp platform. If you ask me today, if election is next tomorrow, if money is what give election, that's me, I'm not going to come back for the second time. Because if you ask, I don't have 500,000 as I'm here in my account as a lawmaker. I don't save money. What I do is whenever I have money, I make sure I make decisions use of that money to touch the life of my people. And I believe, I'm sorry, I'm a Muslim, I believe in destiny. I believe that if second tenure is part of my destiny, the good work I have done to my society, they will look at that and re-elect me. It's not all about money. It's not all about keeping money.
Okay.
You understand?
Because of time, okay? Because of time. No, you're going to say something. There's still a couple of questions, but we need to hear from people too as well. So I know that quite a number of you in the hall have something to say. So please, just put up your hand if you have anything to say. There's a gentleman behind there with a cap. He's wearing a face cap, okay? Please, could you give him a microphone? Can you tell us your name and then go straight to the point?
Good evening. My name is Tunji. Sorry, my question is directed to the honorable members. Sorry, I want to say something.
Which of the honorable member?
Any of you can answer it. Sorry.
Okay. Both of them.
Sorry, what I'm about to say, you guys mentioned something about godfatherism. So what I'm saying is, somebody said, are we eliminating the old godfathers and bringing in the new ones? Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the question?
Nana actually said that.
Yeah. So my question is, what are you guys doing about that? What's your position in that aspect?
Sorry, let me finish. Hold on. We'll take a few questions.
Okay,
we'll just take
sorry, and you have youths in your localities. So what are youths in your areas? What have you done to orient them? Like somebody mentioned, and maybe create something for them to help them in better ways instead of doing being hoodlums, oligarchism, and so on. So what have you done to help them, reenact them, educate them in a better path to follow?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. All right. We have another hand there. I'm trying to see if we have any hand up. We have a couple of hands to my left. Okay. So can you take the microphone to... There's a gentleman at the edge and then the lady wearing red. Okay.
All right, good evening. I want to ask you a question.
Please, what's your name?
My name is Peter, Eze Peter. I want to talk about, ask a question about Togri, using young people for Togri. Now, if I look at people here, I don't see any Tog here, actually, because most of the people they use as Togs are people in the grassroots, whom they call hoodlums. Actually, they are not hoodlums. They are just unfortunate people who are unfortunately used. People who do not know, who are not, maybe are not educated or something, and they take advantage of them. And I see our elderly politicians use them.
So what's your question?
My question now is, what is our younger politicians who are coming up now, these legislators, what are they going to do about that? Are they also going to take that route of using them as thugs? Or what exactly are they going to do about making sure that those young people in the grassroots, not here, people around here, people out there, how are they going to take advantage of them to win an election?
Thank you very much. All right, the young lady wearing glasses.
Okay. My name is Chine Nwevu. What I want to say is, it's a bit of not necessarily a question, but like an observation and a contribution. So I was fortunate to attend an inauguration of a member of House of Rep, and that person was in State House of Assembly. And when he was in State House of Assembly, at a particular point he spoke up and he was suspended and all of that. So he couldn't go back, and after a while he contested for Federal House and he got in. So I remember that at that inauguration, someone said to him, please, oh, this time around, don't just go and say it as you've seen it. Just, be diplomatic like others so that you can stay, represent our people. So that sort of mindset that we have, we are also our problem sometimes. That sort of mindset that we have, we encourage them to do that. We encourage them to go there and speak that way and not speak up. So I think we in the room here, I think we are saying a different thing. We are here saying that you should speak up. If you come back, if we like you, we'll vote you again next time when you run for the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's quickly take one more. Let me see if there's a question so that you can actually answer it and then we'll move. So far, we have a question on Godfatherism and thuggery. Okay, so there's a man, this man, second row. I think his hands came up first. I hope I don't miss anybody upstairs there. Yes, second row here. No, this particular man, yes, with a check. Can you make your question faster so that we can
My name is
get on with it?
Comrade Dogo Jonah. My question is very simple. What we normally do in our organization at local level is to follow and monitor the programs organized by politicians. And not quite long, barely 3 months back, we monitor a program organized by a senator, which was TAC Youth Empowerment. Youth were camps and women for good 3 days on business and entrepreneurship program. At the end of the day, they were all discharged with a sum of 3,500 to go and start up a business. So like this honorable member said from Nasarawa, we would like to know what kind of works are you doing in society that may promote your future ambitions for another tenure.
All right, thank you very much. It's similar to the first question. So let's get the honorables to speak and then we'll take a second round. Okay, no, we'll start with Honorable Monday first, please, because he's been itching to talk. Can we make the answers quickly, like in 1 minute, 30 seconds, please?
Okay, before I...
Before
I go further, the issue of autonomy is a national issue. That has to do with constitution. So constitution has to do with National Assembly. A state legislature have nothing to do with constitution. So please, we shouldn't relate that here because we are state legislators, not national. Now, coming back to issue of godfatherism, of course, you can't run away from this. Either a young man, even a 5-year-old man can be your godfather. What makes him your godfather? You talk about mentoring. It has nothing to do with age.
So are you trying to say that there has to be godfatherism in the development of youth?
When you talk about leadership and followership, before you become a leader, you must have been a faithful follower.
But must it be under the term godfatherism? That's what I'm asking now.
What do you mean by godfatherism? Must not be somebody that mentors. When you talk about sponsorship, whether you like it or not, you need logistics in this game. This is a game. What is politics? Politics is a game of interest. These people, you are meeting them at the grassroots. Most of them, most of the roads that lead to their villages, they are not motorable, you trek down and all that. You need all the, how do you get the form? How do you buy the form? How do you move around? How do you commission people? You hold meetings. Like, of course, the meeting today have cost you a lot. You talk about the hall, you talk about the logistics, you talk about the entertainment, you need money. So, irrespective, we are not saying you need billions of naira or millions of naira to get there, but you need money to get there. That is the pure truth. And then come back to the issue of godfatherism. Of course, you must have a mentor. You can't just enter a class without somebody teaching you the technicalities.
Sorry, I'll have to come in
the
there
methodology.
Again. Are you equating a mentor with godfatherism? I mean, I think we would like to understand. Is there a difference or they're the same?
Godfather plays so many roles. When you talk about sponsorship, you talk about mentoring. There are so many roles a godfather plays in your life to make sure you achieve your aims and objectives. He is there as your backbone. Okay. He is there as your godfather. He is there as your mentor. He is there as your financier. So all those factors, you need them to win, to get to where you are heading to.
Okay.
Then talking about politicians that use talks, of course, it's not necessary. Throughout my campaign, I did not insult anybody, and I did not allow anybody, did not use anybody to insult my opponent. because I have no business with it. I make sure I have a very clean and a right choice campaign.
But you had boys working for you.
I have boys working for me, selling me, promoting me. Of course, you must have people promoting you as their principal. So they must work for you. But I will not allow you to insult anybody. I will not allow you to go and intimidate anybody.
Can I ask you a question, a follow-up to this? So these boys that you used then, or that worked with you then, where are they now? What are they doing now?
Of course, I have them in Kaduna State. Some of them, I engaged them to go for councillorship. Some of them, I asked them to go and campaign for chairman. And of course, presently now, I am stepping up to, to create a vacant in the State House of Assembly for another person to take over.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, coming back to, sorry,
thank you. Hold on, because of time. I'd like Honorable Yimoga to ask the question.
5 seconds.
Okay.
See, as a youth, I have a different view from what my brother just said here. As a youth, if you don't learn how to serve, you are killing others from behind. One, you talk about the issue of continuity. You must serve. If you don't serve, how do you get the logistics? How do you obtain your form?
Okay, you said 5 seconds.
Obtain it directly or indirectly.
Thank you.
Integrity.
The role of a leader is to build more leaders. So again, we need to understand that politicians might have their own concept of mentorship and godfatherism. I have a mentor. Publicly, I've always stated that Malam Nuhu Ribadu is my mentor because he's the pioneer chairman of EFCC. And when you look at his lifestyle and what he portrays and who he is, I want to be like him. But I'm just worried about, my brother saying that you need to lend the rope.
And you need to serve.
Fighting corruption. If we would continue this way, it means Nigeria in the next 50 years would continue to go backward. Our generation need to rethink leadership, rethink mentorship and godfatherism. I would not deny the fact that, yes, there are godfathers, but how have godfather helped us as a nation to grow? So
no, what did you say? Yes or no? Have they really been helpful?
They've made a mess of the whole system. We're promoting socialism with slavery alongside and corruption. Doesn't make any sense, to be honest. I was just telling Hamza that young politicians need to learn fundraising. Young politicians need to learn fundraising and financing. It doesn't have to come from one person. It becomes a problem when there's one person who's beating the drum for you and financing you. You become a slave to the person's ideologies. You shouldn't do that. It's wrong. I understand that some do not know better, but you need to learn fundraising as a politician.
Okay, because of time, I know that we've kind of treated this issue for a while. Can I take the second round of questions? This will probably be the last because of time. Oh, okay, so we don't have the time to take questions.
There are lots of questions that are not being
I'm sorry.
answered.
I've been signaled that we do not have time to take more, But then I would encourage you to continue this conversation online, okay? Remember, it's Yiaga Africa, okay, at Yiaga, all right? And please, please, please don't stop this conversation. It's quite interesting. Because of time, let me take your, should I call it final statement or, that will do. So we'll go around and please in 30 seconds. So we're out of here, this stage in 2 minutes. Shall we? Let me start from Honorable Yimoga because you haven't spoken yet.
I wanted giving a little explanation about the issue of godfatherism.
You have 30 seconds.
But because there is no time, somebody asked the question. Let me just use this time to answer that question.
Okay.
That he attended a program of a politician that organized intending to empower women and youth in the society, but he ended up giving them 3,500 naira. What am I doing? Because I said I use my money to empower people. How am I using my own? My first empowerment program, I purchased grinding machine, sewing machine, designing machine, Bajaj machine for people who do not go to school and they want to engage in
hold
Okada.
on, is that constituency project?
That is not constituency project. I loan money to do that. I have never received a dime as a constituency money since my
so this was your own personal thing that you're doing.
Yes, I do it from my pocket.
But then there's constituency money, which have you pushed for it?
we push for it, of course, but because our state, I'm sorry to use this, national state is just coming up, is a baby state. Thank God that we have.
They said no, that is not baby state.
Thank God that we have the present governor is somebody with a lot of idea, is somebody who is attracting investors to the state in order to boost our economy and bring create opportunity to the youth.
Honorable Umoga, thank you very much because of time. So you're back to that autonomy issue that Hamzat brought up.
You literally threw your colleague under the bus to do exact same thing. This is you singing the praises of your governor, who, by the way, is ineffective.
No. Sorry. I will come. As far as human being is concerned, no, but perfection is the attribute of God. Only God is perfect, but for human being, you can only be excellent. I came. Excuse me. Sorry. Let me die, please.
Don't die.
No, let me die before you bury me. Let me land. Sorry, let me land. Sorry, let's there be decorum, please. Let's there be decorum. One house.
Please calm down, everybody, so we can hear you.
Sorry, please. I came from a strong opposition. I'm not from APC. I'm not from PDP. I came from Zenith Labour Party. It's only few people that get to know about this party. Zenith Labour Party, and I am still in that party. I have never discussed anything defection or going to any party with anybody. But I have very good relationship with the governor, not because of anything. I always go there to advise him whatsoever I think will be benefits to the society, to our community.
All right, Honorable,
you understand?
Because of time, we have to actually, please, because of time, we need to move on. Thank you very much. All right, so I'd like a round of applause. Let's go ahead, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm afraid to even come to you. Time, that's why. So please, can we do this in... Well, let me give you 1 minute because he took a bit longer, please.
All I have to say to my fellow youth, don't be deceived. Go and start savings so that you go and take over power. An impression without expression.
Please, can we all be together in this, please?
Are we together? An impression without expression becomes depression. You have an impression. If you don't express it, you will be depressed. And one thing I want you to know, there's when injustice becomes a law, resistance becomes necessary. But at the end of the day, when you are resisting injustice, and of course the law will cut up with you. So please, I wish you good luck as you join us in the political family.
Thank you very much for that. Please, a round of applause for him, please. More energy. Thank you. All right, so we'll hear from Nana now.
It's on. Okay. My final words will be, if we're looking for a way to include young people in the development process, we need to be deliberate about it, we need to be evidential about it, and we need to work with people who actually know what they're saying and what they're doing. That's it.
Thank you for that. Straight to the point.
I think we need to see leadership and public office as a way of service delivery itself, not a way of enriching ourselves. And I think we need to invest more to empower state assembly members. And lastly, I think we need to be more politically active. I'm not saying being partisan, but be more politically conscious and active. And I'm excited about the work that I'm doing with my friends on raising new voices. So as young people, you don't even have to worry about how do you finance your campaign, because one, we would enhance your capacity, but we would also fund your campaign, because for us, we want to build a mass mobilization of politicians.
That's an opportunity, yes. A strategy that's on the ground already.
Yes. Young people whose ideal aligns with our vision for Nigeria, and we want to build a political base that are not only politicians, but they are people who are experts in their own field. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In all of this, one of the things, or some key things I heard that came out of this conversation is that young people actually need to be engaging. I mean, engage, participate. Don't just sit there and be used. I mean, am I saying the right thing? Didn't you hear that here today as well? Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for our guest, Honorable Monday Samson Diko, Chairman, Kaduna State House, of Assembly, Committee on Youth and Sports Development. Also Honorable Musa Iyimoga, Chairman, Nasarawa State House of Assembly, Committee on Youth and Sports. We want to thank Madam Hamzat Lawal, Connected Development Code, and Nana Wachiku, who is a researcher and member of the Not Too Young to Run Leadership and Strategy team. Please, one more time, appreciate my guests. Thank you very much. We look forward to engaging more with you, especially the honorables. Thank you. Please appreciate them again. Thank you. And I really want to thank the audience for being a part of this conversation. So the conversation continues. Just stay with us. Thank you.
Please, another round of applause for them, please. Did they not do well? I'm very sorry we didn't give enough time to the audience. I had some complaints, but there's another panel session that will commence shortly, and you can keep your questions and add more to them so that you can ask them. So quickly, we're going to watch a short video that you would love. It will tell you about what we're doing on our Ready to Run program. Please play it.
Let's talk about our future. Young people who have capacity.
It's about gender and women. It's about inclusion.
The title is not what makes you. It's the quality of service delivery that you present.
Power is not given. Power is taken.
The solution is with you, whether you are at the state or the federal level.
If you look around, you guys are the ones.
Are you a young Nigerian who is tired of bad governance and the lack of youth representation in government? Do you have what it takes to run for elective office in the next general elections? Then sign up on www.readytorunng.org.
Ready to Run is a campaign dedicated to inspiring and supporting young people with competence, capacity, and character to run for office.
If you will be 25 before the 2023 elections, then you are
ready.
Ready to run.
My name is Nabil Osman. I'll be moderating our next panel. I understand that time is fast spent, so please, we apologize for that. But I'm hoping that we will be able to have a very nice and engaging conversation. Maybe not as engaging as the previous panel, but let's see what we can get out of this particular panel, right? So welcome back again. Of course, you know this is the live virtual Studio Citizens Town Hall on youth responsiveness, service delivery, and development. We're going to be discussing on development trends and learnings for effective youth and gender responsive service delivery. And of course, we're going to tie that to governance policy in Nigeria. I'm going to call up a couple of people who will be on this panel with me. I'll start with Nafisa Atiku, who is a lawyer and author of Girls Just Want to Run. Please, a round of applause. All right, welcome Nafisa, it's good to have you. I also have a director from one of the departments of the Federal Ministry of Sports and Youth Development. We have Amina Mohammed in the studio with us. Please put your hands together. Now, according to the schedule of events that you have, we're supposed to have Honorable Simon Karu and Honorable Favor Tomemo, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, they won't be joining us. I'll be introducing someone who isn't on your agenda. However, he's been very instrumental to this space, so he's more than capable of filling the role and pushing the conversation forward. So we're gonna have Program Manager, Governance and Development for Yaga Africa, Ibrahim Farouk. Please put your hands together. All right, fantastic. Let's see how we can have, again, a fruitful conversation. Right. I guess we'll start with ladies first. Yes. Should we? All right, okay, let's start with Ibrahim. We've put Ibrahim on the spot. All right, so Ibrahim, you know, as of right now, we don't have a member of any of the legislative arm of government on this panel. But at the very least, we can talk about some of the advancements, some of the projects that government has put in place for youth. I think the most popular one is the recent 75 billion investment fund that's supposed to be targeted toward youth. And there's a lot of people who are wondering whether we'll actually see that money trickle down and whether we'll see sustained advancements, because it's easy to say that you bought a motorcycle for a young man, but how does that develop his life further? He's still probably 100 naira away from the poverty line or something of the sort. So what are your thoughts on some of the projects that government has for youth?
Okay. Thank you very much, Nabila, and good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining this town hall. I think that it's very important for us to have this conversation around how government is responding to the needs of young people right now. You mentioned that the ministry has the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, which is a fund of 75 billion spread over a period of time to empower young people. But we always ask the question around how far have young people been consulted around areas to empower them. In the last panel, we heard a lot of conversations around youth empowerment. And if you've seen some of the youth empowerment programs or schemes of some of the politicians that we have, some of them revolve around buying animals for young people and women, or buying wheelbarrows, or buying motorcycles. But the skills of the 21st century that respond to the needs of young people is more around technology. We can see how young people are doing amazing things using technology and fintech. For instance, a Nigerian company was sold for a few $1 million just recently in Paystack. You can see even young people leveraging entertainment, for instance, and carving a niche and making a lot of money from those issues. What is important, and I think that if we had some more members of the National Assembly or State Assembly on this panel, was to answer the question around how are they consulting with young people to ensure that budget processes, that policy processes respond to the needs of young people as it fits our needs, and not just what they come up with in their chambers or what they think young people want, but it is not what young people really need.
So ultimately, inclusive governance. I think we'll come to a conversation around how much youth are ready to be involved in that governance structure. But I want to come to Amina Mohammed from, again, the Federal Ministry of Youth and, Federal Ministry of Sports and Youth Development. Good evening. Yes. I think, all right. Can we go again?
Okay, good evening.
All right, fantastic.
Good evening to the audience. Good evening to the organizers. My name is Amina Mohammed Dauran, Director at the Network and Social Mobilization Department of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, you know, I'm glad that you're director of, a department that has to do with mobilization, because Ibrahim just mentioned how much inclusivity is allowed to young people when you're doling out programs. So what is that like? Are you guys targeted? What exactly do you do to get youth involved in the decisions that you make?
Well, the youth are the constituency that the ministry manages. So we are there for the youth. So for every program, the youth are part of it. Their voices count, and their participation matter a lot.
Okay, so apart from the 75 billion naira investment fund, is there any other project that the government is taking up currently?
Well, there are ongoing projects which are for the benefits of the young people. When you talk about empowerment, it is not only the recent NYIF. Like we have leadership empowerment programs. That's where you have the NYCN, that's the National Youth Council of Nigeria, which is the umbrella body of all youth organizations. Here you have leaders, you have a president, and then you have the executives. They are a kind of bridge between the ministry and the young people all over the federation. Then you also have the Nigerian Youth Parliament. It is a body also for young people who are also, who in kind of what they call it, for decision-making process. It's a kind of training ground for young people coming from the 36 states of Nigeria and FCT. Three young people from each senatorial district. So when you calculate, you have 109. They have a tenure of 2 years, and they usually sit, they discuss on issues that affect them, and hand over their resolutions or communique to the Speaker of the House of Reps. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, it would be interesting to sort of unpack how these intervention programs trickle down to every cadre of youth in the country. Because, I mean, we're all, there are different categories. For instance, I think we had someone in the audience in the previous panel who spoke about how rural people are used as the hoodlums when it comes to campaigns. So there's a big question around how it trickles down to people like that, people within the cities, and then the classifications of urban dwellers. Now, I'm going to come back to you. I want to bring Nafisa into the conversation. So, Nafisa, very recently, I think at the very least 2020, has been fully defined by a lot of youth-driven activity. And it's not just activity, most notably, of course, the EndSARS protests. Outside of that, you also have the ASU strike that's ongoing. Very recently on social media, there's the trend, hashtag end ASU strike now, something of the sorts. And obviously, you have youth who are demanding a certain level of accountability and are not feeling some of these interventions that government is making. So as far as responsive service delivery goes, do you think that Nigerian youth as a whole, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what would you say from your perspective as to the satisfaction towards that?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, great. Okay, wow. You know, I had a discussion this morning about accountability and how we as a country are not doing so well with it. When we want to talk about youth policies, I like what Ibrahim said about its youth policies in itself. I'm thankful that I was here to listen to the first panel about, first of all, youth policies being evidence-based. Do you understand? There is a difference between what you think people need and what they actually need, and how holistic is that evidence? Does it cover all the classes that we have in society, the lower class, the middle class, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Now, the second part I really want, not really want to hammer on, but mention is that youth policies must be participatory. Participatory on the side of young people, there must be a deliberate intention to include young people in this process of creating a policy that is supposed to help this particular demographic, not just from the implementation stage, that is doling out the funds, but in designing the policy or the intervention, the evaluation, that is where the issue of accountability comes in. Because to be honest, no matter how great a policy might seem and how well it is implemented, if you do not evaluate the after effects and how it was implemented, basically have a feedback system, a KPI system to know, okay, did we get it right? How did we get it right? How did we get it wrong? So that we can go back. Because honestly, for people, young people like myself, I personally am not feeling the effects of this intervention. For them to be coming out and say that we are not feeling the effects of this intervention, there is a break in the link somewhere, probably in the communication, feed or evaluation, feedback, monitoring of how the interventions are being given. Because to be honest, you see people in this Abuja saying that, look, you can just walk into the offices one day and get handed a check. Or you have people within those offices that are responsible for giving these loans. Do you understand? going there and collecting names of people that they know for a kickback, and then they dole out the loans. So how exactly, what are the accountability and evaluation measures being put in place to make sure that these 75 billion naira loans for SMEs in the country are being given to the right people, that are not being siphoned everywhere? Because, like it or not, corruption is a big problem in this country. So if they are complaining that, hey, we are not getting these funds, then we need to evaluate the system itself and include young people within that system, because they have to be included from beginning. That is the designing of the, how will I put it, the policy action to the implementation, evaluation, feedback, and kickback system.
Okay, so I can tell that you're already referencing some of the research you've carried out as to how effective this service delivery should be.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned some of these things, because it's almost, you would almost think that it's supposed to be easy to know that if you implement a project, how do we make sure that it's actually working out?
Yeah.
At what point does evaluation come into the mix? And, you know, I'm interested in finding out about the gender aspect.
Yes.
As we know, there is gender discrimination, whether it's conscious or it's not, it's unconscious. So how exactly do we implement effective service delivery that doesn't discriminate along the lines of gender?
Wow. You know, as a gender advocate, that question is very, very interesting. You know, it scratches my back really, really well, because, you know, I was listening to the panel and we're talking about how we should take power and everything, and I noticed that they were only mentioning he, the pronoun. What about us? Yes, what about the young men that want to run for office and, you know, be appointed or be elected into office? It's not just the guys, and I'm sorry to say, we young women too want to be elected into office, because we definitely have a lot of value to bring to the table. That's why I wrote my book. That's why I run my organization, so that young women understand that leadership is their birthright, and they run into leadership, political, business, whatever. So to be honest, in this, even in the constitution of the political parties, I know, because I've done that sort of research, we need to have a gender lens when looking at policies. Because to be honest, you might just put out a policy and you really think it's good, but because from a man's perspective, you're not understanding a woman's perspective, or how this policy on health, on business, on SMEs, on telecommunications, especially things on health and education, how they are affecting the women. Because, like it or not, the women are a different gender, and they have different issues to deal with. So there needs to be, as a country, we need to come to a place where we have a gender audit. We need to look at policies through a gender lens. How is this affecting the men, and how is this affecting the women? So that when you are putting out a policy, it's holistic and it solves the problem. Even for young people itself, how is it affecting the men? How is it affecting the women? How is it affecting the young people? We need to get to that advanced stage of policy legislation development in this country, so that we can really then carry people along.
All right, so again, we're coming back to the conversation around inclusive governance.
Yeah.
Ibrahim, I want to come back to you. So I am aware of at least one, you know, I understood earlier Nana was speaking about certain mentorship programs that prepare young people for governance altogether. And I know that Kaduna State government has the Kashim Ibrahim Fellowship, which is open on a national scale. It's not just for citizens of Kaduna State. And the reason why that's interesting to me is they're in their third year, 16 fellows. I think this year they expanded it to about 24. So, but they've been doing 16 from the inception. And every 3 months or so, you get rotated. You're pushed to another MDA. You feel the effect. They assess you and whatnot. Point is, they're in real-time governance, and they have direct access to the rank and file, whether it's at the top or at the bottom. The reason why I'm laying that as a foundation is you yourself have some experience in the civil society sector. So you've come into interactions with government, with other NGOs, with the population. And I'm wondering, is there a veil that's lifted before our eyes as young people when we go into governance? Because sitting on the outside, it sounds easy. It sounds like we have all the answers to that service delivery. Is there a difference?
I think I would say that there's a difference, or more more appropriately, there's an opportunity for learning. To understand how some of these processes function and how some of these systems work a bit more. And many times we sit in our civil society corner and we can make the right recommendations, but it is also very important for us to understand the workings of government as well, how those processes are, the steps that you have to go through, how approvals are gotten, how requests for funding and how it is channeled, and many times, for instance, when we talk about budgeting, for instance, the budget is just an estimate, but ideally our MDAs are also supposed to have quarterly reports on how much they receive and how much they've expended. Sometimes it takes about 2 years for you to get to get some of those quarterly reports. But for us to understand that if, for instance, they say that 100 million has been budgeted for Nabila and Nafisa and Madam Amina, it does not necessarily mean that 100 million has been released. And part of the work that organizations like Code and will follow the money have been doing is trying to find out how much money has been released, how much money has been implemented. Just to add to your point, especially about the Kashim Ibrahim Fellowship in Kaduna, I think it's a great mentorship platform because young people are exposed to the real workings of everyday life in a government. I was speaking with one of the fellows actually a few days ago, and they were sharing some of their challenges, and something just as basic as ensuring that there's diesel in a generator in a government office, and the challenge of getting an approval for diesel to be put in a generator so that there is power for them to do their work. And these are some of the challenges that they face. My recommendation would also be to other states to also copy some of these leadership programs. I know from the Federal Ministry of Youth, we talked about the Nigerian Youth Parliament, and that is 109 young people. And I think there are opportunities for us to do many more. We have always consistently, for instance, analyzed the budget of the Ministry of Youth to see how it is responsive to the needs of young people. And it might shock you that the budget of the Ministry of Youth, consistently, about 90% of it only goes to the NYSC program. And each year, between 250,000 to 300,000 young people pass through the NYSC. And we're talking of a youth population of about 60 million. But 90% of the budget of the Ministry of Youth goes to the NYSC. What you have left are things like the Youth Parliament or the Youth Council or some support to NANS, some leadership and training programs at the different centers, and some of the centers are not even functional. But as we look at the budget and the work that is being done, we can see that other ministries, departments, and agencies have budget line items for young people. So the Ministry of Agric, for instance, might say training of young people in fish farming. And so we must start to look at where are all those budget line items that go to young people and how we can track their implementation and ensure that that is really what young people need. If you tell young people in Amak that we are coming to train you on fish farming, I can almost assure you that nobody is going to show up. But if you go to Arugungu, for instance, where they have a fishing festival, and those are the kind of items that are responsive to their needs, because it takes into consideration the needs of young people within that particular context. I think moving forward for us as civil society is to make those kind of recommendations that looking at the context, what is specific for young people and what would respond to their needs, and we can budget for that.
Well said. I want to pick on something that you made a reference to. You said you spoke to one of the fellows and they were talking about something as simple as putting diesel in the generator, which is shocking because I can equate it to saying that I need somebody to, turn on the lights or turn them off here in the room. Now, the reason why I'm pointing it out is I want to go to the conversation around corruption. Corruption is one word that, if you are old enough to understand language in Nigeria, you might not understand what it is, but you've at least heard it 10 times in one day. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I'm bringing it out is a lot of the time, the face of corruption is always the face of the MDA, the head of a department or head of the entire ministry, and we're not talking about the rank and file. I'd like to believe that, let's assume money is, doled out for that diesel. It's not the commissioner or whoever is the director of the agency who's going to go buy the diesel. So somewhere along the line, it goes missing. And I'm pointing that out because it then says that the rank and file, who's made up of regular, average citizens like you and myself, are now part of the corruption problem. So, question now is, you see, that affects the service delivery itself. Again, it's not necessarily the head that's going to give you that service. It will be the rank and file. Do you think that government needs to start targeting a reorientation of sorts of the rank and file of the civil service?
I totally think so, and I totally agree with you that corruption is not just from the top to the bottom. It's also bottom up. And you'd go to the ministries and you'd see a director of finance, for instance, that has to sign off, or a procurement department that has to sign off. And corruption is in many different forms. For instance, it's around inflating the price of items and objects that need to be purchased in the MDAs. And we need to get everyone to make sure this works. One of the things I've seen that I really like is work done by an organization called Budget. And they look at the national budget and simplify it. And one of the things they always point out are items they call frivolous items, or where we see discrepancies. So for instance, the Ministry of Youth wants to buy a Hilux, and they say it's 10 million. But the Ministry of Education wants to buy the same Hilux, and they say it is 50 million. And you ask yourself, is this corruption, or is it just a discrepancy? Is someone trying to find an opportunity to make a few extra millions out of taxpayers' money? But also beyond that is around citizen advocacy and citizen vigilance and the work that we do. For now, there's a lot of conversation around the Youth Investment Fund. As young people, we must start asking ourselves the question, who are those young people that are receiving this training? Are we monitoring and evaluating it? Because this is not the first of such programs that we're going to see. We had SureP, for instance, and if we ask ourselves, where are the beneficiaries of these programs? Can we measure the impact, and can we evaluate the project in the lives of young people who benefited? Probably not. So after SureP, we had an Empower program, and now, which is still ongoing, and we're still asking ourselves, what happened to the beneficiaries of SureP? Are we sure it's not the same beneficiaries that are recycled, that are again just enjoying the social investment programs that we have? We now have a youth investment fund, and millions of naira is going to be given to SMEs as well. While on one hand, it is very important for us to emphasize that we appreciate the fact that some of these interventions are responding to the needs of young people, we also have to make sure that we can monitor and evaluate them and make sure that the impact are felt by the young people who really need it.
Yeah. All right, so I want to bring Amina into the conversation. So Nafisa said earlier about the importance of being very deliberate when it comes to gender-based service delivery. So if you're going to do governance, whether it is on a state level, local government level, or national scale, and it's targeted towards women, you can't have 5 men in the room and 1 woman and think that you will get as many, positive feedback as you would like. So is there any provision right now within the ministry that looks specifically at making sure that women are represented on every level?
Thank you. Yes, for the ministry, we try as much as possible for every programs that young women or young ladies are represented. Because what we do, even when we write letters for participation, we indicate clearly that it should be gender balanced. Even for the sittings of the Nigerian Youth Parliament, at inception when we write to the state government, because the states provide the 3 young people. So what we usually do, we indicate that there has to be a female amongst the 3 people. And for all other programs, that's what we do. But unfortunately, some states are not really keen on abiding by that.
Is it because of the state leaders, or is it because the women themselves are a bit reserved?
No, I think tradition and religion plays a great impact on that. Recently, I think around October, we had a kind of training, youth enhancement program for the physically disabled young people from the Northwest Zone. So the 7 states of the zone were supposed to have participated, and they are supposed, I think, 10. It was 10 per state. So they were supposed to have a kind of mixture of both the male and female. But unfortunately, I think in a state I saw all of them males. And when I asked, what they told me was that the parents of the ladies refused them to come. So you see, that is tradition. There's traditional impact as well as religious impact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to ask one more question, then we'll get questions from our audience here. Nafisa, this one's for you. In the previous panel, we had our legislators talk about, they rightly pointed out the politician's mentality that's looking to be re-elected by the next cycle that's coming around. And I'm very particular about separating a politician from an elected leader, because by the time you get that position, you are no longer driven by, ideally, you shouldn't be driven by what your party wants. You should be driven by what the people who elected you want. And I'm wondering whether you think, because this was from a young population within the legislative arm, how much do you think we're doing to, disabuse our minds from the fact that once you enter office, you are a politician? We shouldn't be politicians, should we?
Well, interesting question. To be honest, when these kind of questions come up, I'm naturally a very idealistic person. Like, this is how things should be, and you're there to serve the people. And then there is that part that says, this is Nigeria, with all its hang-ups and etc. Okay, well, ideally, before you enter into office, you're a politician because you're trying to win the hearts, the votes of people. You're trying to galvanize votes. So you're naturally a politician. You have to be a politician to do that. But once you get elected, you then have to put on another hat. That now I have been elected by the people to serve them. So I carry their interests, I carry their grievances, I carry their concerns, I carry everything that, basically what they have given me as a privilege, and I'm here to serve them. Basically, that should be the #1 priority while an elected official is in power. Then you now come down to party politics. I am not contested for a position. No, there are people here that contested, so I'm just speaking from the little reservoir, what I know from trainings and hearing politicians speak that, this is what you're supposed to do. But when you actually get there, you still have to, there's a certain loyalty to your party that you must have. There's a certain level of party politics that you must play. And to be honest, I'm sure every lawmaker wants to have an extra 4 years so that they can continue to do the good that they were placed in office in a sense of continuity. So, honestly, I don't feel like there's a way that you can literally just fling party politics aside, knowing that this is the vehicle that even got you into office. This is a platform that you use to enter into office. I think it's more of a balancing scheme and a balance of priorities. You are first there to serve the people and to produce a lasting change in the lives of your constituencies. I think to see party politics is to see it as a tool to achieve your priority one, to be honest, because there is no way you'll be a politician in this country and you will not play party politics. I think I have some politicians here and they will agree with me.
All right, so I'd have loved to ask the legislators, unfortunately there's none on the panel, I'd have loved to ask how being a politician colors any sort of, affects your service delivery, how responsive you are when it comes to choosing between being a politician and being a government leader of the people. Having said that, I'm opening up the floor for questions. Are there any questions? All right, so we've got our first hand here, we've got a hand there, so we'll take this first question from the gentleman in green.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Sadiq Fasasi. I'm directing my question to the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Recently, there is very funny news everywhere talking about the minister saying they need 85 million naira to cut some grasses,
Grass.
I don't know, somewhere at the National Stadium. So actually, I went there to like survey the areas and, you know, check the kind of grass they want to cut with such amount of money. So, but I don't know what they want to use such money for. So, and there is a lot of money. The Nigeria Investment Fund, the Nigeria Youth Investment Fund, that money is, I don't know, the link has been out for a very long time, and we have been applying for, like, me personally, I have met up with all the rules, everything they said we should put in place have been put in place, and I've not seen anything being done. So I don't know, maybe there are some youth somewhere here that are benefiting from that kind of, which I believe that, I think that is another scam that is going on, because the CBN, they kept on saying, every day we keep on hearing different kind of news about that Nigeria Youth Investment Fund. I want you to tell us what are the necessary steps we need to take for us to benefit from that, because this is our money. Are you getting it? So, yeah, the money belongs to us. Before another politician will loot the money, and they said they have empowered Nigerian youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadiq Fasasi. Yes, let's take our second question.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Emeka. Well, my question will definitely go to the representative from the Ministry of Youth and Sport. She's the only government official I see, so I would like to find out a few things from her. I'll start with the inclusiveness. She did mention, Nafisa did mention something about including women, and we've also been talking about including youth. You know, I have this belief that if you are to include a particular group of people into something, you have to create special opportunities for them. So, are there programs where you say, we cannot take less than 5 women from every state? Are there programs where you're saying we cannot have less than 10 youth on the team? Are there situations like that? Because that's the only way you get to include us. Secondly, I would like to ask, well, while the legislative members from the various states were talking, the one from Kaduna did mention something about his boys. And we all understood that those boys, in as much as he said he told them not to make trouble with anyone or anything, they have that capability of causing trouble if they want to. So it still comes down to the hoodlums we are talking about. So the question is, what is the Ministry of Youth and Sport doing in that regard? What are you doing about those boys? What are you doing to ensure that they are not used like that? The third question is the godfatherism. Yes, the politicians here have spoken and they all said you need a godfather. And we all can unanimously agree that the godfatherism is actually a problem for Nigeria. So what is the Ministry of Youth and Sport doing about it? Because you're saying the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you doing to curb this godfatherism? What are you doing so that the young people wouldn't have to pass through godfathers to get into this positions? Now, the last thing I would say is the 75 billion intervention fund. Nigeria has over 100 million young people who probably need that money. So if you are saying you are keeping 75 billion for young people amidst the pandemic, and if you are doing the division, you're talking about probably a 7,500 or 75,000, which is not even up to, I think, that's probably $150 a year about. So what does that achieve? If you want to empower young people, what number are you going to affect with that money you have? What number are you affecting? And if you are going to make it an even thing, what is 75,000 going to do for the average Nigerian? And if you are saying you are going to give some more, it means you're not going to accommodate all the people you need to assist. So the government definitely has to do more. Thank you.
All right, so we're only going to take 2 more questions because I did see 2 hands come up. And unless our honorable in the House is about to respond to one of the questions, I think that we'll take the gentleman with the face mask with the yellow, and there's another one at the tail end. So just those questions, and then we'll have our answers.
Good evening.
Honorable, do you have an answer for us? Yes. All right, we'll come to it. We'll come to it in a bit.
Once again, my name is Tunji Idris Shitu. Sorry, my question, the representative from Youth and Sport, the questions are all directed to you. Sorry, you mentioned that tradition in the Northeast probably didn't allow some women come out for the program that you organized for them. So I want to know what steps have you taken maybe to educate them
Tunji, could you use the mic?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
What steps have you taken to educate the people in that locality that coming out for such programs is beneficial for their women and their daughters? Then my second question is, like they were mentioning about the restriction of programs online. I want to know, you said it's for the youth, but why do you always have an age barrier? And why is it always 35? Most of the programs, you see, if you're above 35, you cannot apply for this, if you're this, you're not eligible to apply for that. Sorry, that's my question.
All right, so final question on that end.
Thank you so much. My name is Praise. It's more like a question and a contribution, particular about the Ministry of Youth and Sport. At the Nigerian Prize for Leadership, we just concluded on Saturday, at the opening ceremony, we had the minister there, and he listed a couple of opportunities you have for youth. So I'm asking, I think the problem is communication. So do you have like a channel where we go and assess these opportunities and formally apply for them? If it doesn't exist, I'm also asking, is it also open for maybe Connected Development, what they do, maybe what Yaga do, and they come and say, okay, what we want to do is we want to take these opportunities from you and make sure that it gets to the ordinary citizen on the street. Is there something like that? Or is there where we should particularly be looking at when we talk about opportunities here? Because there are so many of them. The minister listed a couple of opportunities. And I have an example as well. I recently posted about the business name registration that is done by the federal government. And it was amazing to me. My DM got filled up. Questions. What is it about? Is it free? Do we need to pay? I'm like, this is just a free information that is out there. But it goes to show that many people are not actually aware. A lot of you don't know where to access these opportunities. So is there where we should go and get this information and how we can assess them? Or are you open to receiving organizations just strictly publicizing information and how we can begin to take advantage of those opportunities? Thank you.
Thank you, Praise. I guess no one's too surprised that all the questions were directed to our rep from the ministry. I think before she starts with the questions, I do want to point out that it's important that we understand, the systems and structures of a place. I believe there are certain limits as to how she can answer these questions. Unfortunately, we don't have the minister himself here, but let's see what she has for us. We'll start with Sadiq Fasasi's questions. There's one of his questions that's tied to what Praise just mentioned, which is how do we actually access these opportunities? What platform do you have for that? Could you, let's check the mic.
We have various forms of platforms which you could access and get information concerning the different programs that the ministry is running. And I think at the end of the program, I'll give the information maybe to the moderator so that she could pass it on to you. Thank you.
All right, so Sadiq also interestingly pointed out the grass situation at the stadium. I don't know how you're going to answer that, but it would be interesting to hear.
Well, I think that was carried on the social media platforms and even newspapers. But the minister came out to debunk it. How could you use that amount of money just for grass cutting when you have young people in large number that need empowerment? That is not true. He was misquoted, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, so we had questions from Emeka. He talked about the limits and requirements for youth and young women, whether you have any sort of policy that says you can't have less than 10 young people or less than 3 women on a certain, I believe you made a reference to that in the last question that I asked.
Okay. Well, in response to that, what I will say is that there is no specification so far, because for every program, the number depends on what program it is and what type it is and where it is holding. Sometimes it is maybe just for a region. Sometimes it is based on states. So there is no specification to say that the ladies should just be maybe, does that mean that we should have minimum number of ladies compared to the male?
Well, I think it might be important for, I don't know whether the government adopts that across board, the 35% affirmative action. I believe it is 35%, isn't it? Across the world, the United Nations says 35% of representation, the very least, should be inclusive, you know, women. But, all right, so Emeka had a couple other questions, and I'm going to tie two of them together. He asked about what the ministry is doing in terms of stopping youth being used as hoodlums, and also what the ministry is doing about youth...
godfatherism.
Yes, godfatherism.
Well, I think the two questions are almost the same thing.
Yeah.
What the ministry does is it goes into a lot of sensitization for young people to realize that they should not be allowed to be used by the politicians. That's what the ministry does, a lot of sensitization, especially when it is around the period of elections. It goes through the radio, through platforms, through the TV, and the rest. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to tie, you know, it's a question of how effective the communication is. That's now what would come into play. It goes to one of the other points that was raised earlier. He also asked about the 75 billion investment. Unfortunately, I don't think you're in the position to respond to that, but...
Well, I think I can say something on that.
The breakdown, yes.
Or the breakdown?
He was asking about how effective it would be if you say you want to share it across.
Well, who said it's going to be shared across? I think it depends on the interested people. Some might not apply. So, and it's not something that is to be shared around.
Could you tell us some of the criteria?
Well, it depends on the skills. It is an online application. And what is expected is that whoever is interested, he goes to the platform, he registers. Questions will be there. As he completes, more questions comes. If he's successful, he'll be called for training, and then later on, the disbursement.
All right.
But it should be known that it is not what you call, we should not call it maybe or time it the usual thing. I don't think. I think the government is really serious about this, because from the 75 billion that has been allocated for this, and if I don't even think there are administrative charges that would be used from that amount. It is specifically for empowerment. And from what I know, anybody who has already benefited from who has already benefited from one form of loan or another in the most recent times is not likely to enjoy that. Because with the BVN now, once you click, whatever loans you have enjoyed or you are onto, that would be indicated. Thank you.
All right. So, you know, what you've just responded to is, it's interesting because it speaks to one of the points that Sadiq raised earlier, which is the trickling down. You know, when you look at some of the things that government has done, there's no denying that there is the will to an extent to make sure it gets down. But again, it's a question of how sustainable is it when you give 30,000 naira? What is it really going to do? Is it going to push you off the ground? And it goes to what Nafisa was saying about whether government is proactive about assessing the projects that they have implemented. How well has it functioned? Where were our lapses? Those kind of questions need to be asked. Now, the final questions came from Tunji. He talked about cultural reorientation, ultimately. The women that you mentioned, especially in the northern region, and he also asked why the age limit is 35 every time you go to a government project and you want to apply. I don't know, Tunji, should I put you on the spot? Are you more than 35? Maybe that's the problem. All right, so.
Okay, on that I would say. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, on that I will say maybe the age limitation is based on the age agreed on by the youth policy, which is between the ages of 18 and 35.
15.
Okay, sorry, 15 and even I think 29 for the just reviewed one.
Yes.
But I think the ministry is bending that a little to include older ones than the 29. I think even for the NYF, there is consideration for ages up to 40 years because of the unemployment ratio in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think she did a good job of handling the questions. Are we satisfied? Yes. All right. So, yes, our Honorable said he wanted to respond to one of the questions, and I think it's worth giving that opportunity so that we wrap up. Could we get a roving mic for him? Do we have any, or should he come up? All right. Yes.
Good evening once again. I think the question had been answered, but I think there is need for me to shed more light on it. It's about the godfatherism. I wanted talking about it the other time, but time could not permit me to do that. I want us, we cannot eat our cake and still have it. Nobody can force you to do what you don't want to do. We are not saying there is this wrong perception we have that the leaders we have should totally go and let's have the young generation to lead. That is not what we're saying. What we're saying, the leaders, the old leaders we're talking about, actually have the experience. But we have the energy to do that. What we're saying is, to some extent, there should be a gap. They should say, this is what we want you to do. Go. That is what we're talking about, the mentorship. We're not saying they should go. I'm telling you, I'm a youth. I have this opportunity, but if I tell you my experience, you will not believe. I am very, very to say this. To some extent, youth are the problem of the youth. I campaign around my constituency that if I come, this is the agenda I have. This is my policies. This is the vision I have for my people. This is what I want to do. But to my greatest surprise, today, the first people that are my problem are the youth. I am saying this thing because that perception of our own is in the seat now. We will all make money. It's wrong. You understand?
Is that a youth thing or a Nigerian thing?
You said?
Is that a youth thing or a Nigerian thing?
Nigerian, I'm talking about. You understand? So, and again, sometimes we meet these leaders to bargain about the vote we're going to give them. We collect money from them. I will not vote for you. You have to pay me. We do a lot of things and collect money from politicians. Before voting, we are not voting for them based on, what do you call it?
Integrity.
Based on integrity, based on merit. We vote most of the times based on, is my brother, is a Hausa man, is an Igbo man, is a Yoruba man, is a Christian, and is a Muslim. If at all we will continue doing this thing, we will not get things right. I'm sorry, I want to quote a Quranic verse. There is a particular verse in the glorious Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the God Almighty says, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqakum min dhakari wal unsa wa ja'alnakum shuhuban wa qaba'ila lita'rifun inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. God Almighty says in that particular verse that all you people, he's talking about the people, he's not talking about the Muslims, he's not talking about the Christian. Nobody applied to become anything. You don't apply to become Igbo man. Nobody applied to become Hausa man. We don't apply to, God says, we created all you people, we created you from single man and single woman. That is Adam and Eve. And the best among you are those who fear God the most. We have Christians that fear God. We have Muslims that fear God. Let's follow and see based on integrity, criteria. Let's see, okay, this person can do well. Let's vote for him. Let's forget about the differences. If only we'll do this, that will get Nigeria fixed. I close my chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. It's much appreciated. So we've come to the end of this panel, and Afi will be ending this town hall for us. But I think it's important that we leave with a question. Governance is a continuum, and it's very important that we always have the questions that will lead to the next set of discussions we have. I know we keep talking about what kind of leadership do we want, redefining leadership, but I think it's time for us to ask, what do we want from followership as well? How do we want to redefine how we follow up with our government, with our leaders, accountability and transparency? So I've been giving, this is from, Amina Mohammed has graciously provided some of the information you asked for. Let me just read that out very quickly. So on Instagram, you can find them at Nigeria FMYSD. Nigeria FMYSD. And you can check the Noya site, that's noya.ng, Noya.ng. You can also check on Facebook for the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Nigeria. Check Twitter, Nigeria FMWS. Again, Nigeria FMWS. And their website, of course, that's the youthandsports.gov.ng. The and is spelled out, A-N-D, www.youthandsports.gov.ng. All right, so please a big round of applause for our panelists, Nafisa Atiku, Amina Mohammed, and of course Ibrahim Farouk. Thank you guys, you've been an amazing audience, and I cede the floor to Afi. That you could read it out. She wants to correct something.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for them again. An interesting one. Right now, I want to appreciate every one of you who participated in this event. I mean, we've kept you here for quite a while. Please appreciate yourself. A round of applause for yourselves. And I want to thank all of our panelists and the guests that participated in all of the discussions. Remember to join the conversation on social media. Follow YAGA Africa at YAGA on all social media platforms, at YAGA. And please remember to use the hashtag Youth Organizing and Leadership in your posts. Hashtag Youth Organizing and Leadership in your posts. So we can't close without saying thank you, and I'd like to invite Efemena Ozuga to come and give us the closing remarks. But just before she does that, there's a correction here. So from the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, the website, the Twitter handle is at Nigeria FMYS. The Twitter handle at Nigeria FMYS. I think we got that right. At Nigeria FMYS. On Twitter, the website is www.youthandsports.gov.ng. Facebook, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Nigeria. Noya site, that's Noya site, is noya.ng, Noya.ng. And Instagram, Nigeria FMYSD. All right, Efemena, please would like you to come and give the closing remarks. Thank you very much. Please join me and welcome the two of them that are coming up here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Afi. Thank you to our speakers who were on the panels, and to our moderators. You guys did excellent. And of course, thank you to our audience who have stayed till this very time. I know we stayed longer than expected, but just to say we really appreciate your presence here. And you have to follow the conversation on social media. You have to engage us on at YAGA on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. So after this, we're going to be doing an audit of the budget, a gender and youth audit, and we'll be sharing it with all of you via your emails. We have them. We're also going to be doing a policy brief on the budget as well, so we'll share it with you guys, okay? So thank you very much. Have a great evening. When you're going out, you just pick your snacks and your drinks and go out. Thank you very much.
Nigeria is blessed with young, competent leaders.
Let's talk about our future.
Young people who have capacity.
It's about gender and women. It's about inclusion.
The title is not what makes you. It's the quality of service delivery that you present.
Power is not given. Power is taken.
The solution is with you, whether you are at the state or the federal level.
If you look around, you guys are the ones.
Are you a young Nigerian who is tired of bad governance and the lack of youth representation in government? Do you have what it takes to run for elective office in the next general elections? Then sign up on www.readytorunng.org.
Ready to Run is a campaign dedicated to inspiring and supporting young people with competence, capacity, and character to run for office.
If you will be 25 before the 2023 elections, then you are
ready
to run.
Challenges as well as the impact.
Nigeria is blessed with young.
Gender and women. It's about inclusion.
The title is not what makes you. It's the quality of service delivery that you present.
Power is not given. Power is taken.
The solution is with you, whether you are at the state or the federal level.
If you look around, you guys are the ones.
Are you a young Nigerian who is tired of bad governance and the lack of youth representation in government? Do you have what it takes to run for elective office in the next general elections? Then sign up on www.readytorunng.org.
Ready to Run is a campaign dedicated to inspiring and supporting young people with competence, capacity, and character to run for office.
If you will be 25 before the 2023 elections, then you are
ready
to run.